I mean, I'm interested in the process as to how we have got here. Almost 4 years ago, there was an 80-seat clear majority, and members of parliament, despite lots of opposition from Labour, Lib Dem, nationalists and so on, in the House of Commons have clearly said time and again that we want a migration policy that is both fair on those people genuinely seeking asylum and wanting to come to this country to work and contribute, also fair to the British taxpayer who is paying billions of pounds for this failing migration system. We want to fix that. And then you have a court, which of course was the creation of Tony Blair. The Supreme Court is not that old, basically overruling a sovereign decision of Parliament. And incidentally, I think that we should have hearings for appointments to the UK Supreme Court in Parliament, approvals, as they do in the US Congress and in many other systems, because it begs the question, who are making these decisions? This is I would say, number one.
Are you suggesting then, Henry, that this was political from the court?
Yes.
What Henry is saying is unelected European judges and now unelected UK judges. I mean, where is it going to end, for goodness sake? Every time you don't like a judgment, you talk about people not being elected.
Henry?
What you did was unlawful. I'd like to know, when you put that illegal migration bill through Parliament, did you know that that was unlawful? Did you know the Rwanda policy, the backbone of that bill, and then subsequently an act? Did you know? Did you have advice on that? Because if you did, it's what you've done is a failure in due process. And quite frankly, this government needs to go if that's the case.
Well, thank you for interrupting me. This is essentially, again, the establishment trying to take on actually what elected members of parliament have a clear mandate from their constituents to do. And it then begs the question, is the House of Commons ultimately sovereign in the decisions that it makes? Now, that is our constitutional arrangement. But what we do have are, as you say, unelected judges, in this case, sitting in Middlesex Guildhall. But in the other case, when the flights were stopped last year, a substitute judge late at night sitting in the European Court of Human Rights ruling against this country. What the clear majority of members of parliament elected decide is sovereign. And that should be the case. But unfortunately, we do see this resistance throughout the system, and it's playing for time. Because
Henry, can I just
what essentially the system is seeking to do, in ignoring the clear wishes of a vast majority of my constituents and certainly I would argue majority of people across the country, is playing for time so that they get what they hope for is a change of government, which will be a lot less robust when it comes to.
So all the judges, Henry, are sizzling lefties that have got a plan against the government. I think the point that I would represent here would be that I'm the first in the queue to want to have this sorted. What is happening on our borders is ridiculous, outrageous, if for no other. It's not fair on anybody, including the migrant. Blah blah blah. We know all of that, but that surely Parliament, yes, it is sovereign, but it has to work within the law. And the government, presumably, but Henry, just on this point, the government must have taken legal advice from very similar legal brains that were sitting in that Supreme Court. And they probably told them the same thing, that it wasn't likely to win.
I suspect, I'm not the government, but I suspect what they decided to do was to look as though they're doing something, was to challenge the ruling in the Supreme Court. So it looks as though that they're being serious and acting on this process. Okay. I think there's I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
I think, Henry, I think they deserve an apology, Henry, from you. The 5 Supreme Court judges deserve an apology for all the comments you've made today. They are the most senior judges in the land, applying the laws, the same laws for you and the same laws for me. You may not like it. Yeah. And as far as the will of the people is concerned, if we asked the will of the people today, you'd probably be out of work tomorrow. So, what about the will of the people? And so I'm not sure the will of the people is as strong as you make out to be.
Henry.
I get hundreds of emails every week on this issue from my constituents, and my constituency is pretty typical of the average opinion in this country. And believe you me, people are furious at the way that the UK's borders are essentially being run roughshod over. There are hotels in my constituency and up and down the country that are jam-packed with illegal migrants who are essentially playing the system.
Do we just need to find another country, Henry? Is that
and
Rwanda seems to be the problem.
Ultimately, the legal argument here is that what the elected House of Commons decides in Parliament is the law of the land. Now, it's sometimes been called that our system is an elected dictatorship, but that is the system. And if people's concerns expressed through their members of Parliament can't actually be reflected in policy implementation, then it really does render Parliament obsolete.
Okay, just